Welcome to the J.R. Hendrick Texan Gentleman, the podcast that deals with the early life of J.R. Hendrick. And now, narrating the story, Shake-Up Weekend, the Shake-Up Weekend, J.R. and Jimmy. Okay, guys, we're in for a treat. Here we go. 5:30 a.m. Eastern. Jim and Betsy sit together in the front lounge, talking about the fun they had last night with Constantine Bush. Bush had entertained some heavy hitters in conservative names: Newt Gingrich, Dick Armey, and Tom DeLay. Today, Jim was going to be leaving with Cowboy Joe McDonald, a member of his dream team, talking about some of the next move with the press, with the possibility of having Carol Stringer write the statement for Bill Maher in such a way that neither got crucified by the press. 5 a.m. Central. Waking up in the condo, JR goes into the kitchen to get himself some Dr. Pepper. At 7, Janet, the duty servant at the condo, would make him and Ken some bacon and eggs. He learned yesterday that Jim Bob Horton was coming down for today through his aunt. Was going to have dinner with Ken, and they would drive back to Odessa tonight. JR is not enthused about having to go back to the dorm tonight to room with Kevin McDonald, and especially Charlie Nation. Although Kevin reassured him yesterday when they came back from dinner that Charlie was going to tone down and spend most of Sunday studying in the library. 7 a.m. Central. At the condo, JR and Ken have bacon and eggs for breakfast. At 10, JR was going to be going to the library to study economics and mass media theory for a couple of hours before joining Ken at 1 p.m. 10 a.m. At the library, JR and Jennifer study with collective notes they had on economics class first. 1:25 p.m. Eastern. In Washington, D.C., Jim is having lunch in the suite of Cowboy Joe and Susan McDonald to talk about the plans for the next few press conferences and exclusive interviews. Cowboy Joe says that he was glad he was going tonight to see Carol Stringer, and tomorrow night he will visit Bill Maher to talk about how Carol would be writing the statement in such a way that neither got in trouble. 1 p.m. Central. Just happy to be back at the condo and having burgers with Ken. Even though I knew deep down Jim Bob would be there shutting down the whole operation for the weekend. Kim would have dinner with Jim Bob before going back to Odessa. But at the same time, I was happy that I was going to be having dinner with Jennifer Bowers. 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., Jim and Cowboy Joe are sharing some drinks in the Dream Team VIP lounge upstairs in the Hendrick Mansion in Washington, D.C. The first major meeting of the Dream Team would be at 4 o'clock. Downstairs in the mansion. 2 p.m. Central. We just getting along with a match of 10,000. And I just realized my heart wasn't into it. When Jim Bob showed up, he was so quick to talk about Brad when both Ken and I shut him down. Jim Bob could tell that I was feeling down. And when Ken explained to him that I defended Jennifer Bowers' honor, Jim Bob congratulated me for doing so. 5 p.m. Central. Darren drives the car in front of the University Center. Well, hello, Jennifer says, getting into the car. Darren, always good to see you. Just feels good seeing you and having a nice dinner, Jared said. It's going to be fun. I've always cared about you, Jared, Jennifer said. I feel the same way about you, Jared said. Jared drove the car to IHOP for them to have a nice dinner together. 7 p.m. Jennifer and I are in deep conversation at IHOP. Next week's topic in public affairs is media effectiveness and media bias. Can you believe this? Jennifer said. And another thing, I want to thank you for defending my honor from Charlie Nation. He's a damn fool. I saw him in the pool area walking towards the officials and receiving his trophy. And then I saw him walking away like he's some lonesome wounded bird with a wounded childhood. Forget about Charlie Nation. Turn the conversation someplace else. Like about us sitting in the library or sharing another good meal together. 10 p.m. Central. In the car, Jennifer and I talk. Thank you for defending our honor, Jennifer said. That's what the gentleman like me do. I mean, I could have held my own, but what you did, I really appreciate it. Darren drives the car to drop Jennifer off at her dorm and me off at Gordon Hall. 3:15 a.m. Eastern. Jim wakes up and goes to the front lounge. The main thing on his mind was his eldest son. He had seen in an email that he was considering an internship joining Blair Clark next summer with the U.S. Supreme Court. But he was hoping that Mike Fields would change his mind. Yesterday, he noticed a problem in communicating between him and Betsy. Betsy was preoccupied yesterday with the fact that 2 years ago, that was the day that Kyle asked Madison to marry him. Jim could care less about that fact. What he was interested in was JR. Certainly, in many ways, he believed he was proud of his son. 3:35 a.m. Eastern. Sitting upstairs in the Dream Team lounge, Jim thinks about his marriage to Betsy. How other than this weekend, particularly Friday, they haven't been able to connect very much at all. He wondered whether she was resentful that his job in Washington, D.C. was taking her away from her love of the ranch and her mother. Being bored in his marriage, he thought very seriously about connecting with another woman, should she decide to leave for a short while. 5:50 a.m. In the front lounge, Betsy is talking to Jim, asking him to consider coming back to church with her. But of course he says no. He explains why he cannot come back to Capitol Heights Baptist Church because of something the minister said about President Clinton, even though he disapproved. This would be creating a further gulf between them in their marriage. 6:15 a.m. Eastern. In their bedroom 6:15 a.m. Eastern. In their bedroom in Washington, D.C., Betsy struggles to tell what she wants to tell her husband. That she heard about her mother's health. Elizabeth had an appointment tomorrow afternoon with the oncologist, Dr. Theodore. 7:05 a.m. Eastern. The staff made everyone some pancakes. Most of the kids are chattering away, but Jim and Betsy Hendrick say not a word to one another. 7 a.m. Central. At Crockett House, JR is having breakfast with Brent Clark. They like bacon and eggs, along with orange juice and hash browns. He looks all around, and no surprise, no Charlie Nation. Instead, Charlie had gone to the student union to grab a quick breakfast. 11 a.m. Central. At the Holy Spirit Club, Jarrett listens to a message by Bruce Kinghorn, professor of political science and public affairs, talk about lawsuit and contention among believers. 1 p.m. Eastern. Betsy and Christine, Forever and Amy, Kathleen, and Bobby enter into the mansion. Betsy says absolutely nothing to her husband as she walks into the house. Christine decides to talk to her father and figures out what is wrong. I don't have a clue, Jim said. I tried to get Mom to talk, but she still won't say anything, Christine said. No, don't you even say anything to her, Jim said. 1 p.m. Central. JR is at the Spirit Club having a steak dinner with Brent Clark. Aren't you coming to the devotional tonight? Brent asked. I don't know. I don't think so. Jennifer's aunt's coming in from Colleen to see her. That is not what I asked you, JR, Brent said. Lay off him, Tim Newcastle said. He's been suspended from the swim team for 3 weeks. The least thing we can do is give him some space. And what if he gets bored? Then he'll come by and see us. In the meantime, let him be. 3:05 p.m. Eastern. Jim is sitting in the front lounge, perplexed. Still not one word from Betsy. His plan, if he couldn't talk to her today or tonight, he would try to talk to her tomorrow. 3 p.m. Central. Charlie Nation had gone off to Weymouth Hall to watch some movies and chase some skirts. Kevin McDonald would stay in the library, so I took a nap. 7:10 p.m. Eastern. Dinner that night in Washington, D.C. with fried chicken with his family. But you could still cut the tension between Jim and Betsy with a knife during dinner. Earlier that evening, Jim had arranged for a golf date tomorrow afternoon with David Rosenberg, a member of his dream team, before the meeting at 4 o'clock that afternoon. 7:05 p.m. Central. Kevin McDonald took me to Antonio's Pizza Lounge because he saw me sitting there in the dorm living room all alone. So you got suspended, Kevin McDonald said. That coach was an idiot, a blockhead. I bet Charlie's still celebrating his award. Come on, Junior. Within a few days, if not tomorrow, people will be putting on Charlie's head dunce cap for being a fool. I doubt Jennifer Bowers will ever look at me the same. Man, Brent Clark told me yesterday that your friend Ken said this: if you hadn't decked Charlie, he would have. What was done Friday at the swim meet was just wrong, and that coach was a fool for suspending you. We hope you enjoy listening to the J.R. Hendrick Texan Gentleman. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and become a part of the adventure. This is the James Hendrick Empowerment Network saying get ready for the rest of the story. There's going to be more adventures from here. A lot more interesting from here.